After his father died when he was 15, it was just Lim and his mom, Preeta. Then, 3 shots on a Saturday morning took away the only family he had left.
You lost your dad and you lost your mom, and you are here in America by yourself.
Yes, I had to be on my own.
So who did it and why? In the hours following Preeta's murder, Lim tells detectives about the contentious divorce she had gone through with her ex-husband Baldeo, a man who still owed her $10,000 in alimony payments. But he lived 600 miles away in Nashville with his new wife, Raminder. So cops start looking a little closer to home.
So was your mom dating anyone?
Yes, at the time she was.
And was there any question that maybe your mom's new boyfriend could have done this?
They asked me everything about him too.
Police do question the boyfriend, but he's cleared of suspicion. And as it turns out, he doesn't fit the description of who they're looking for anyway. The description given to them by eyewitnesses to the murder.
The eyewitnesses on the scene described the shooter as what?
As a woman, one of them heard shots and looked up and saw what she thought were 2 women. And then one woman falls and the other woman takes off.
The witnesses also described the shooter as wearing a long wig. Either way, there was only one woman in Preeta's life with whom she'd ever had a problem: Raminder Kaur, her ex-husband's new wife.
Preeta and Raminder, did Preeta know what she looked like?
They had seen each other once, and they had a confrontation one time during the pendency of the divorce.
In fact, she may be referring to an incident involving both Raminder and Baldeo.
They had spied on Preeta Gaba in the past during the divorce while it was pending, and Baldeo had used Raminder to be the person to follow her around a Walmart store. And they were texting back and forth while Raminder was spying on her and telling him what she was doing.
And Lim confirms his mom knew about it. Police were curious enough to start making some calls around Raminder and Baldeo's hometown.
They could tell that Preeta died, from a revolver, and they just sort of randomly started calling gun shops in the Nashville area. One of them just got lucky. It was one of the first shops. They called, and the guy, he just recalled, yeah, I sold that guy Baldeo a gun, and yeah, his wife came in.
And the store owner had more than just his word to back it up. This surveillance video, which clearly shows both Baldeo and his wife Raminder shopping for guns.
They end up buying 2 revolvers, one sort of a normal size and one a snub-nose revolver.
We called them the Mrs. and the Mr. gun.
It was too suspicious to be ignored. So less than 2 days after Preeta's murder, authorities in Maryland decide to pay Baldeo and Raminder a visit in Nashville.
They had gotten to their house, and I think they were trying to decide whether they were going to go in the house or not. And then all of a sudden, the couple comes driving up.
Baldeo and Raminder tell police they're just coming back from a work conference in Washington, D.C., but their luggage says otherwise.
In the car, we found 2 guns, 2 wigs, and 2 hoodie sweatshirts.
Not exactly business attire. The weapons were later found to be the very same Mr. and Mrs. guns Baldeo and Raminder were seen buying on that surveillance video. And when it came to Mrs. Gunn,
the gun that was used in this homicide was recovered from their vehicle in the original packaging underneath some articles of clothing.
So they're brought back to Maryland. They're formally charged here.
That's correct. With first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and use of a handgun in a crime of violence.
At any point were either of them offered a plea?
No.
As far as authorities are concerned, they have the couple dead to rights. But Baldeo and Raminder insist that at the time of the murder, they were at that work conference in D.C. And when police check it out, they find that in fact they were. So what gives?
They came here on Friday, spent the night Friday, committed the murder Saturday, pretended to attend a conference downtown for about a minute and a half, which was, I think, just a complete...
A minute and a half.
Well, literally it was a ruse. If they were there 15 minutes, that may be the maximum amount of time. They literally traveled 600 miles to go to something for about 15 minutes.
They were just trying to establish their alibi.
100%.
And that's exactly what the prosecution would argue at trial, that and a whole lot more, thanks to a GPS device found in the couple's car.
This is the case of 600 miles of premeditation. I mean, there actually was evidence that suggests they had been up here the week before. They had traveled the additional 600 miles just to make sure that when this thing went down the following week, when they set up the alibi to go to the conference in Washington, D.C., they did a surveillance run.
Though both Baldeo and Reminder are tried together, they're not exactly a united front.
Baldeo Tanasia tried to blame it on Reminder Kaur's son. There just was no evidence of that at all. And then Reminder's attorney actually tried to say that some young woman that Baldeo worked with was the shooter because she, I guess, was Indian and matched the description of the shooter to a certain degree. We found that woman, we found out who she was, and we brought her to court and had her testify, and it was absolutely clear that she had nothing to do with this.
So then, if it was Baldeo and Reminder who actually pulled the trigger?
The prosecutors kept making the point to the jurors that if they both planned this, they both went to the neighborhood, one of them was in the car parked nearby and the other one was the shooter, we don't need to tell you who the shooter is. They're both guilty.
And the jury agreed. Though neither Baldeo or Reminder took the stand, the jury felt they had heard enough.
They were each convicted of first-degree murder. They were also convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and use of a handgun in a commission of a crime of violence. They each got a sentence of life.
Case closed? Story over? Not exactly. Reminder appeals the verdict, arguing that her attorney never let her take the stand in the first place, and that she had a story that would turn the entire case on its head.
What she was asserting was that during the trial, as they're going back and forth to the jail every night, her husband's next to her, they're in their chains or whatever, and he's taunting his wife. And he said, I drugged you. And when you were passed out, I slipped up to my ex-wife's neighborhood and I put a blouse on and a wig and I disguised myself as you. You're going to go down for this.
It's a claim too outrageous to ignore, and shockingly, Reminder got her new trial. But when it finally came time to share her incredible story,
she didn't take the stand. We were all waiting for this big moment.
That's like criminal in itself.
Well, it definitely upset the prosecutor.
It was a fraud on the court for them to petition for a new trial. It was a disgrace they had a new trial, and it was, and the result is we basically had a retrial of the first trial again, and she was convicted again.
Guilty again, along with her husband Baldeo, for the cold-blooded slaying of Prita Gaba. But why? So much didn't make sense.
He wasn't involved in killing Prita to stop the alimony payments because he was almost done with them. He just had a little bit more to go. So I think the motivation was more, years of bitterness and anger. They were both very angry about this, and together they came up with this horrible idea to kill Prita.
Leaving a son without his mother. Lim is now 25 years old and trying to fulfill his mother's dream of a better life for her son, going to college full-time while also maintaining a steady job. Once a week, he visits his mother's grave, and he says that even though he no longer has any living ties to this country, because his mom is buried here in Maryland, he can never go back home again.
Is there a message to the people who did this to your mom?
I just told them that I hope both of them rot in prison for the rest of their lives.
Prosecutors say the quick thinking of the officers in this case was huge in getting a conviction. Had the couple been able to get rid of the murder weapons, this case could have gone unsolved. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.